You're listening to the Outstanding Life Podcast with your host, Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. As a motivational speaker, Johnny D impacts audiences around the world with his message of living the outstanding life. He's a best-selling author, MC, and two-time Grammy-considered artist. This podcast is a place where Johnny D can introduce you to his outstanding friends and share funny, interesting, and heart-provoking stories. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. Here comes your host, Johnny D.
Hey everybody, I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Outstanding Life Podcast. Before we get things kicked off today, I want to say a big hello to all my friends tuning in on Dirt Road Radio, KYDT 103.1 FM and KBFS 1450 AM. On today's episode, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Timothy Chance, a star in the music industry, hailing from Music City itself, Nashville, Tennessee. As a singer, songwriter, and producer, Timothy brings a unique perspective and an undeniable talent to his craft. Join us as we dive into his musical journey, the challenges he's overcome, and the inspiration behind his unique sound. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to be inspired and motivated as we uncover Timothy's outstanding life. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Timothy Chance. Timothy, how are you?
Johnny D, I'm amazing, brother. Great to hear your voice. Pleasure to be on with you.
Man, first of all, I know you're super busy and everything else, man. I just want to say thanks for taking time to come out and hang out with us here on the Outstanding Life Podcast and Dirt Road Radio. So, man, thank you. I want to jump right into this, man, because I got about 53 minutes with you, and I want to get a lot of stuff in here. What I didn't say in the intro is you've been on the road with some pretty big names like Kid Rock, Hank Jr., Big and Rich, Muzik Mafia. Dude, what was that like, being on the road with some of the biggest name bands and people in the business? It was an absolute blast, brother. It was an absolute blast. You learn a lot. That was it was actually like my college, after college. It's like, just building the relationships. A lot of it back then was a little wilder, and some of the folks, some of it, you can imagine with those people and getting out there and looking back at it from a semi-grown man perspective. It's like, and a level head, and I wouldn't trade it for nothing. A lot of those experiences, just phenomenal. The crowds are what it's about, the people. When you step on stage with somebody like that, and no one knows who you are, and they're sitting there looking with that expectation, like, okay, what's this guy going to do? What's going on? And then you get about 10 seconds, 20 seconds into your shtick, and they're like, oh, I'm enjoying this. And then they look around, and you see the crowd start to, kind of swell backwards from the first 10 in the front row to the whole arena, and you got them in the palm of your hands, and next thing you know, they're singing back to you like, man, there is no greater high, no greater experience. And honestly, that's what really saved my life is seeing people's reaction to what we do as performers. Like, absolutely, it was so much fun. I'd say probably that stand out, and then the second is probably the relationships that you make along the way, the respect that you earn from people that are veterans in the business, and the friendships you make over time that continue to educate you and keep you in the loop on, changes and growth and how the industry's moving and shaking, and plug you in on projects and stuff. And man, it is just a priceless experience. Things to do, but also you learned what I'm sure not to do as well. There's a lot of that, but you really learn like, you learn obviously what not to do, but if you're really focused and you're really about your business, like I know you are, so I can talk to you about it on this level, like, you really find the joy in why these people are great, regardless of what public ear or eye or judgment of other folks might perceive on how people live their life. Like, you really just learn the hustle, man, and you learn to keep going, and through the highs and the lows, like, you find so much joy really in touching people's lives, man. It's like what you do. It's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to be on here with you, because I know your heart. Man, I appreciate that. Hey, is it true? I heard a rumor
And I want you to tell me and tell everybody listening, but is it true that you were the first producer for Jelly Roll? You were Jelly Roll's first producer. Is that true?
You've done your research. Absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting. Man, he's been such a powerhouse in Nashville for a while on the hip hop scene. And I was running a club called the Outer Limits, and me and one of his buddies used to sneak him in when he was 17 and get him in the battles and stuff. And then from that point, we just linked up, became good friends, and I took him around town for the next couple of years, introduced him to a bunch of people, and showed him what I know. We have a company called the Dragon Farm, which is now a production company, a record label. It's since, we're talking over a decade ago, of growth. And but the Dragon Farm originally was 4 MCs. It was myself, Jelly Roll, Pal Shadows, and this guy named RPM. And that was the original Dragon Farm. So, yeah, man, old Jelly Dude, he's been kicking it off. He's been doing amazing things, and I'm super proud of the guy. Like, you can't expect nothing less from your energy being around people and inspiring and being inspired by than a story like that.
Isn't it crazy though? I mean, literally just a couple of years ago, nobody even knew who Jelly Roll was. And what you just said was just remarkable. You're like, listen, man, he started when he was 17 years old, hustling, getting in places, that he wasn't even supposed to be in. And it's like people always say you become famous after 20 years of being in the business. They don't see all the hustle in the the years leading up to that.
Absolutely. And the thing that Jelly did right was he kept recording projects. He kept putting records out, and then he went out and he hit the road. He vanned it up and he built it up from that level, and he just kept playing shows and playing shows and playing shows. And over the years, his music evolved, and now the world gets to experience some of the greatness that some of us saw ahead of time, and
that's
and
cool.
It's just amazing, man. You got to be proud of a man like that.
I was talking to a couple friends and telling them about you, and you're going to be on the show and stuff. And they asked me to ask you, and I'm just going to throw this out there, but what are your thoughts on Struggle Jennings?
Oh, Struggle Jennings. Dude, I love that guy, man. I think his history, I think his name, it's like you gotta keep a legacy going like that if you're in the music. And the fact that he's a rapper, it kind of shook the foundation of a lot of people at first. But him and Jelly are so tight. I actually Struggle approached me after a show one time, and a lot of people don't even know the story. But Struggle approached me to show, and he's like, "Chance, I came down here to talk to you." I'm like, "Okay, what's up?" It was down in Demumbrium. And this wasn't Struggle like people see him or know him now. This was white T-shirt, selling mixtapes, streeted out, Struggle Jennings back in the day, his Struggle. And he's like, "Man, how do I, get going?" I was like, "Man, it's like, well, you just got to network, brother. Just get out and talk to people." Matter of fact, we got a battle tomorrow down at BB King's. I got a few people coming out, have you met so-and-so and so-and-so, and named a few people. He's like, "No." I was like, "Man, well, come on down. I'll introduce you, make sure you know." And sure enough, he came down that next night, and it was a Mouth of the South battle, which I ended up winning, which Jelly Roll won the year before. And we kind of did this battle thing where he pushed himself, but we pushed him to battle that year, and I stayed out of the battles. And the next year, I went through and won all the battles, and that's actually where Strug and Jelly met. One of my managers at the time, Julian, made sure to introduce them at the top of the stairs in front of BB King's down there, and that's actually where Jelly and Strug met. It's interesting, the relationships that you see form, and it's cool where you see them grow to. But sometimes you just know what people need in their life and what you can provide and what you can't and what others can. And, then again, you can never predict the greatness that's created from somebody's work and hustle, so you got to give the credit to people getting up, going out, and making it happen. But, yeah, that's actually that's where Strug and Jelly met. So,
cool.
Parts of that story. Yeah, and I just think it's cool how Strug infuses his family. He's got his daughter out there. He's got everybody out there. And a lot of people, a lot of people struggle, no play on the name, but a lot of people struggle with bringing their family into their music career. Different people have different approaches, and I've always admired how that man infused his family and got everything rolling like he's got it going. Yeah, I like that guy. He's a phenomenal artist, and and it's more what he stands for that I'm just drawn to. I guess I could say.
Nice. Chance, I appreciate you talking about all these other, guys and bands and everything else, and that's really cool. But, I want to talk about something that is really, really personal to me, because I believe that, I was, one of the first people to hear your new single that you're just going to be releasing soon, and you're actually going to be releasing it here on the podcast, letting everybody hear it for the first time. But it's called All Because of You. And I got to set this up. And it was just a couple of weeks ago, me and you were in Texas at a NASCAR race. And I saw you, and you played me this song, and it was so freaking beautiful. Talk a little bit about it, and then we're going to listen to it, and then we'll come back and talk about it some more.
Thank you for saying the kind words about it. And, I got to send a shout out to my collaborators on that one. You got the sultry, smooth voice of Mr. Jon Gambino. Check him out, JonGambino. He's a wonderful guitar player, singer, songwriter, but that's who sat down and wrote it with me. Very few people I can really open my heart up to, but that man's got a very rich history and very rich understanding of life. And I was struggling with the relationship with my son, and I needed to write something that, just to get it out. And he helped me write that song initially. And then, of course, we brought in Rasta Country, which is, remember when Kenny Chesney did Everybody Want to Go to Heaven, and he had the Wailers on that song?
Yeah.
Since Bob, is no longer with us, and over the years, they've toured as the Wailers. Well, Family Man, Bob's bass player and original arranger and producer on like all the big hits, was with Drummie for the past 17 years, and they've been touring as the Wailers. So Rasta Country is actually an offshoot of the Wailers. So to have them on this record, it was just like a major honor. And I met Drummie through Alicia Hoffman and Rebecca Lynn Howard. And Rebecca's a phenomenal writer, and Alicia's a phenomenal writer. I'm not going to get into their history, but if you want to, find some great musicians and legends in the business, that's two names. But they brought me in on a session when Drummie was in town working, because they knew I had a different flair, and me and Drummie just hit it off. We've been best friends ever since. So, shouts out to the features on the record. And just real quick, Mike P. from Insane Clown Posse that wrote the song Homies for ICP, probably their biggest commercial hit. And then and like 200 other songs with clowns, like Psychopathic Records. Like he's actually one of my guitar players and best friends, and co-producers on a lot of the stuff, even like the Wyclef records that we've been working on. Like Mike P. is like the best engineer that I know. Super fast, plays every instrument, so he helped produce it. And then we brought in, I was the last artist to work with Dave Aaron, one of the last artists to work with Dave Dizzle, who actually was, in the Death Row stuff when you see Tupac and the light-skinned dude with the fro. It's Dave Dizzle, Dr. Dre, and Suge Knight were like the business and producer side of Death Row Records, where so Dave Aaron pretty much, from what I understand, helped mix pretty much every Snoop Dogg record. But the project that attracted me to him, like when I first sought him out to work with him, which took 7 years to get to him, but we were successful. He produced Sublime, and that really comes off in this record. Like he did Sublime's first record, the big one, Dave Dizzle, Dave Aaron, and so he helped. I say his name like that because we recently lost him. About maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. So this record's kind of a tribute to him. But shouts out to those four: Jon Gambino, Rasta Country, Drummie Zeb, Mike P. and Dave Dizzle on this for helping out make this record great. But yeah, man, it's a story, that I wrote just to kind of let my son, since I don't get to see him as often as I would like to, just let him know that Daddy loves him more than. When he needs that reminder, he could turn it on and know it's all because of you, But John was really wise when we wrote the song. He said, hey, man, I know it's about your son. He said, but leave the you open so that the listener can place whoever they want to put in that you position in the you. which is one of the most brilliant moves as a songwriter I could ever imagine someone suggesting, and thank God we did. But, yeah, that's our first single. Just went out, goes to radio on the 30th here in a couple days ago, and we're really excited about it.
Well, here it is, everybody. All Because of You by Timothy Chance.
You hit me with that look, I shattered like an hourglass. Time froze and you were so cool, I skipped the last beat of my heart, just like a Marley track. Cause now we jamming, if it's love, I like the sound of that. I turn the radio up a little bit and just rock to the rhythm of the ocean in the parking lot. You take me there, beach chair with my feet propped. And when you kiss me on the cheek, my heart stopped. When the going gets tough and the tough gets tougher, I think about you and I light up like the summer sky. Get this feeling like I'm flying my highest dream. All because of you, I wanna dance like ain't nobody looking. Rock with everybody up from Cali to Brooklyn. I get this something like it's nothing that I can't do. All because of you, I wanna jump and get caught up in the feeling. Drop all my worries on my mind and start chilling. Sun shining, ain't nothing gonna break my cool. All because of you. It is all because of you, yeah. You make me smile from ear to ear. Ain't worried about the future, cause now it's clear. I hope you understand what's happening here, cause I am not the type to lose my cool. No, it's just something about you that makes me humble inside. To put it simply, when you touch me, I get butterflies. Just to know I got a love like yours flips the switch to the light of my life. When the going gets tough and the tough gets tougher, I think about you and I light up like the summer sky. I get this feeling like I'm surfing on a cloud, it's true. All because of you, I wanna dance like ain't nobody looking. Rock with everybody up from Cali to Brooklyn. I get this something like it's nothing that I can't do. All because of you, I wanna jump and get caught up in the feeling. Drop all my worries on my mind and start chilling. Sun shining, ain't nothing gonna break my cool. All because of you. Yep, you got me tripping. For real, you blow my mind. I'm thinking about writing a song for the radio, telling the world you mine. And if that song's a hit, I'ma act a fool. I'ma take you around the world, wouldn't that be cool? Shoot, I'm just glad to know you. Really, you make me better. And I ain't never met nobody like you, no, never. You're the best as ever, I mean like ever. And I can say it cause it's true. All because of you, I wanna dance like ain't nobody looking. Rock with everybody up from Cali to Brooklyn. I get this something like it's nothing that I can't do. All because of you, I wanna jump and get caught up in the feeling.
Well, hey, everybody, that was Timothy Chance, All Because of You. Timothy, I gotta ask, man, who did you put that song out with? I mean, was it, did you put it out with a label? Did you put it out by yourself? I mean, what was the deal on that?
Brownlee Entertainment out of Nashville, Tennessee. Good friend of mine, Dwayne Brown. Shouts out Dwayne. You know, his character is second to none. He started a little operation back in the day called Sony Red, him and his team, and they were really one of the first, if not the first, I believe they were the first, platform for independent artists to have any type of distribution through a major without giving up major label percentages, and he just cracked the code, man. He really cracked the code. He signed a bunch of great acts. 3-6 Mafia, a lot of people don't know, they signed their first big deal out of Nashville. That was with Dwayne, you know, after running Sony Red for 25 years. Retired from that, took a couple years off, you know, and then he just came back in the game about a year or so ago, and just turned out, you know, I was up here working on my farm. I've been working on the farm for the past 3 years, getting it set up, studio, full on, Robin Big style fantasy factory for rednecks and country folks to make music, you know, and so we got it going, and it finished up, and I was ready to release some music, and I called up Dwayne, really the only person after all the labels I've worked with, you know, I trust him more than anybody, and he was gracious enough to take me on, and yeah, so it's with Brownlee Entertainment. We did a collaborative effort with Dragon Farm, so it's Brownlee Dragon Farm, and yeah, it came out about a week and a half ago.
That is so cool. You know, Timothy, I got to ask, I've seen you at quite a few NASCAR races over the years. What got you in to NASCAR? I mean, were you always associated with NASCAR? Did you always like race cars? Did you always like, I mean, what was it about NASCAR that you fell in love with?
I think it was the fact that they show me a lot of love because of the Last Man Standing song I wrote with Trailer Choir, with a group that was on Toby Keith's, rest in peace, Toby. It was on Toby Keith's label, Show Dog Records, that I helped get started. We had a big song called Last Man Standing that was the Sprint to the Cup Series theme song on ESPN and ABC and stuff. It was cool to hear my music. That was like the first time I was on television that I heard myself was through NASCAR. And so I've always been a fan of racing. I love I'm a big gearhead. I love to take stuff apart and try to put it back together. and I just love the rumble of the engines, brother. I love getting out there, and I love the people. I love the environment, so I try to catch as many as I can.
Have you ever considered playing at any of the NASCAR races? I know that they know all about your music. I mean, we see different bands out there every weekend. Have you ever thought about, going out and playing?
Absolutely. That would honestly be a dream come true. And, I figured you might have a few friends that we could talk. Yeah. I've actually been approached, and I think now that we have the music out, I'm gonna see what's up, and maybe we'll catch some races this year, hit the stage, and rock out. That would just be absolutely amazing.
That's so cool. Well, everybody, we'll be back right after this message with Timothy Chance.
How do you know that Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy, is the right speaker for your conference or seminar? Trusted testimonials from real clients. Dylan Tanaka at the Michigan Real Estate Investor Network says members from the audience remarked it was the best speech they heard in decades. The North Huron Schools wrote, "The kids truly enjoyed your assembly and they have been talking about it since you left." If you want to make an impact on your attendees, book Johnny D at motivationalcowboy.com.
Hey, everybody, you're back listening to the Outstanding Life podcast. Today we have Timothy Chance. Timothy, I have to ask, man, do you have a favorite driver?
Ooh. I mean, if you're talking Chevy, which, I love Chevy, you gotta holler at Chase. You gotta look at them guys over there. I love, but I really love what they got going over at XI23 because I'm a big Jordan fan.
Okay.
I think collaboration with Denny Hamlin. I think it's just the storyline that's going on over there. And I love how NASCAR is online. Like on Netflix, they got a big documentary, big series they just dropped before the season this year, which I thought was great promotion.
Timothy, just so you know, I made the first episode.
Just so you know, brother,
just so you know. I mean, it was only 3 seconds, but I was on the show.
Hey, that's a great 3 out of your 15 of fame, huh?
Yeah, but you're right, though. I mean, Tyler Reddick is awesome. He used to be with Chevy. Bubba Wallace used to be with Chevy. I've interviewed both of them so many times. Great group of people over there. I mean, Tyler Reddick just won the other day.
Yeah, that was a great race. What's cool about Denny is I follow him on social media, those guys. And, Denny, even though I didn't win, I still win. And it shows a picture of him with Michael Jordan. And then it's Tyler a couple flips later. And you got Bubba congratulating him. It's like, man, them boys are doing it right.
Yeah, 100%. You've got to meet so many, popular people, when it comes to the music scene. I just have a personal question. I mean, we just lost him not long ago, but did you ever have an opportunity to meet Toby Keith?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah. Not anything recent that, any adult memories, over the past few years. I don't have any with him. Shouts out to my homie Colt Ford. He was out with Toby for the past little bit, and I've written a couple songs for Colt. We Like to Hunt on his second record. I just wrote one called Cooter Hunting on his last record. Check those out, Colt Ford. But Toby was just a kind soul. And I remember him back from Should Have Been a Cowboy days. Can I tell you a real quick story about this?
Yeah, absolutely.
A gentleman walks into a bar, he sees my mom. My mom was a bartender, and she hosts talent shows, the Old Country Music Hall of Fame, Pauline Smith. And, I was the kid that shot darts, shot pools, and shot pool and drank Shirley Temple till I passed out on the rubber mats behind the bar, right? Because we were too poor to have because she battled cancer from I was 5 to 13 when she passed away, So I was that kid. I grew up in the bar, so I got to see it all. And so the story goes like this. Man walks in the bar, says, "Man, my place." She's like, "You any good?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm pretty good." He's like, "What's your name?" He says, "Toby Keith." And he's like, "All right, well, Mr. Keith, you're next." And sure enough, gets up there, rocks the house, and next thing you know, about a month later, they pulled my mom out of Vanderbilt Hospital, and we took her down. She had just lost her hair. It was like her second bout of radiation and chemo. Back then, it was real experimental. So, but she had just lost her hair. I think she had her breast chopped off. She lost them twice and got them rebuilt. Funny story. She came back the third time. She said, "Give me the full dollies." I'm not going to get into that, but she lived the last few years. It's really fun. But Zimmer walks in, and we're sitting at the Longhorn on Lyle, which used to be the hangout for all the songwriters back when I was a kid. And man walks in, and they pull my mom out of the hospital, and he shakes my mom's hand, and he says, "Pauline, I just came in here to tell you thank you for whoever it was you introduced me to. They got me my record deal." And he says, "The label just got me, I signed my deal today, and the label got me this horse and carriage sitting out front, and I'd love to take you and your son out for a ride." Well, turns out that was actually Toby Keith.
Wow.
He took me and my mom out riding around Nashville in a horse and carriage the day he signed his record deal to thank my mother, Pauline Smith, for whatever it was that whoever it was that she introduced him to. And I think it had to do something with a young lady named Debbie Boleyn back then. Shouts out to Debbie and her son Cody. He's like a brother to me. But yeah, that's a true story. That's my mom introduced Toby to whoever it was that got him his first record deal. And it's stuff like that you can't write, you can't pay for, but you got, if you're smart, you got to pay attention to. And if you have that kind of experience in life as a kid, then hopefully eventually it translates into keeping that energy going as an adult. And that's really part of my history as far as being in the music business.
What a great story. You just brought up your mom. From what I understand and what I read, both of your parents were entertainers, correct?
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. I'm gonna start with your mom. What's one thing that Pauline Smith, your mother, what's one thing that you learned from her?
Wow. The value of relationships. Just the value of relationships. Like, she just treated everybody like they were her best friend, whether she knew them or not, because you never know what people are going through, and you never know who somebody is. But, being the bartender, she was a counselor for a lot of folks, and I used to watch a lot of people come in and sit down with her just across from the bar. And even though my mom was battling cancer, like, she never let anybody know. The coolest memory I got about my mom is, and I say this with joy, and I try to share this with as many people as I possibly can, but she never once complained. I don't have one memory of her ever complaining, even though she went through more pain and more suffering. Lost her hair 3 times, lost both her breasts twice, and all the stuff that eventually ended up taking her life. But she was just so strong, and she taught me, she instilled in me the value of relationships. I'd say that's probably the single most important thing that I carry with me today from my mom.
Timothy Chance, you also wrote a song called Pauline, and it's about your mother. How tough was that for you to write? And before you answer that, I'm going to play you guys a little bit of this incredible song called Pauline by Timothy Chance.
There's got to be a better way to say that last goodbye. Lord, give an angel a wings, just let her fly, fly, fly.
Though I try not to take her by, when I don't pray to you, Lord, please take me high. Give me wings, God, let me fly, 'cause I ain't waiting till the day that I die. Though I try not to take her by, when I don't pray to you, Lord, please take me high. Give me wings, God, let me fly, 'cause I ain't waiting till the day that I die.
Chance, what was that like writing a song for your mother? A legacy that she left you. You were able to give back to her and write this beautiful song. What was that like for you?
Now imagine the frustration and pain of patiently waiting. Experimental drugs determine their destination. Medicare and Medicaid just add to the aggravation of trying to raise a son for the future that he's facing. You know, it's a very true story. And when I wrote that song back then and who I was with, it wasn't as painful as you would think to write the song. It was more of a joyful expression because I got to write it with a gentleman named Julian Bonetta. And Julian actually went on to produce One Direction. He's a big writer. His father, Peter Bonetta, big Motown guitar player. You know, I was actually set up with Julian in Barbara Mandrell's old log cabin mansion called Fontanelle, and we had the place to ourselves, like the whole entire mansion, gun range, pool, everything. Like it was just a blessing, man. What a great time in life. Like, you know, I got to take Hank Jr. on my off-road track out there in my Jeep, and they thought I was going to kill him, you know, but we didn't. Me and Hank had a blast. He's out there saying, floor it, hit the jump. I was like, I got you. Get out the car, and he gets out of sight, and I get chewed out. They're like, you could have killed him. No. But, you know, it was a blast writing that tune, you know, and it was just really a joyful experience writing that one and getting it off. Now, the kicker was when we made the video. When we made the video about halfway through, the actress, I filmed her. You know, I actually directed and shot. I shot probably 50% of it. Shouts out Matt Cullum. You know, he runs a company that I started called Welcome to Nashville. You go welcometonashville.com now. That's something I started and helped get that up and going. But me and Matt were sitting in a room, and we were doing the effect where she had passed away, and I was like standing on the bed with the candles in the room, filming the actress, like doing the death scene where my mom passed away. And then we went in post, and we took the actress and we dressed her up in full blown like white dress, beautiful hair, everything, and we green screened her with my buddy Kurt B from CMT, great film guy. Shout out Kurt B, Floribama, love you guys. And we green screened her to where when she died, the spirit came out of her body and like goes through the screen. It's cool, one of the coolest special effects I've been able to obtain as a filmmaker. Semi-pro filmmaker.
Chance, it's amazing. And, I just want to tell you, I had some people over here on Friday doing another show, and I played them Pauline, and I played them the video, and I had a young lady, 30 some years old, with her mouth open like holy Toledo. I mean, like you grabbed her right in the first 3 seconds. The other gentleman was, a 50-year-old man that just was like, wow, this is a powerful song. So, well done. The video was well done. The music is incredible. I mean, you are just so talented. And just, I'm sending you right now from Detroit to Nashville. I'm sending you a great big air hug, my friend, because you are changing people's lives and writing music for the average person that people can relate to. And I think it's amazing. Wow.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And it's for these magic moments. Just real quick to kind of wrap that up, and thank you for saying that so much, Johnny. That's why we do it. And what was wild is on the death scene where she passed away, and the spirit comes out of her body, I when we finally got the effect right, I got so excited that I elbowed, when I get excited, I get real physical. I bump around on that, I like to shoulder bump and hug and high five and all that stuff. I shoulder bumped my editor, and when he shoulder bumped when I hit him, his hand hit reverse on the video. It hit the reverse arrow, and I watched her spirit go back into her body in reverse, and her eyes open up. My whole body went numb. I just lost it. I went into tears, and it was that moment, if you can picture the video being played in regular direction, being played in reverse, and seeing her come back to life like that. It might seem very insignificant and very personal, but that was what I was searching for when I made that video. The video was really tough, and at that point in my life, I was really just missing my mom, and it was that moment that I realized that I was missing my mom, and then that journey sent me on the journey I'm on now, as far as the science of sound and how to, put healing frequencies and vibrations that make the body feel healthy into the music that's coming off the speakers, because it's a very physical property of sound bouncing off speakers and hitting the human body. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of the greats come to us now at Dragon Farm is we're doing a lot of science in the sound to better humanity.
Nice. We talked a lot about your mom, but let's talk about your dad, Tim Smith, man. What's your dad like, and what did you learn from him?
My father, when him and my mother divorced when I was 4, they came to Nashville, and my father gave up everything. He gave up drinking, he gave up smoking, and I've never seen, he gave up his music career. And I've never seen a man get more focused. He started a small business, hustled pots and pans out of a minivan, and then eventually got on this knockoff perfume business, and he built a bunch of offices, and ends up marrying his secretary, Cindy, who's my stepmom and my best friend to this day. It wasn't easy when I was young. I was wild, but now looking back, she's my best friend. I love Cindy so much. She's been so kind to me. But I have to speak about Cindy when I speak about my father, Tim. But my dad, Tim, before he gave up music, he was actually he was band leader for Gene Watson. He played with Conway and Loretta at the Grand Ole Opry. And
wow.
As a musician, you don't. Yeah, true story. And even at that highest level, though, as a musician, you don't really make a lot of money, even though it's glorious and glamorous. You see those guys on stage, you got to give them a lot of credit because they're bootstrapping it. Like a lot of people. Normally the stars are the ones that are making the money, or the people that are writing the songs, producing the records and stuff. But, my dad is a great guitar player, and he gave all that up to raise me, and he taught me how to hustle, man. Like if I took one thing from him, it's how to, how to turn a dollar from a dime. It's like he's very brilliant. He's very smart. He's very focused, and thank God he's with me today. And one of the coolest things I was able to do in the business was, when I got successful and I started first having my first little pops with songwriting and performing and producing and stuff, I was able to help him get a studio. And for the past 10 years, I've been teching my father. And whenever he got caught up on a record, he called me and asked me, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? So now him and all his buddies got a cool studio down the road in Nashville, and they got a ton of songs they've been writing, and it feels so good to be a part of bringing that dream back around to my dad after he gave it up for me.
Well, speaking of bringing it all the way around, you just got married last year. I mean, what is it like for you to be, after all this time, being single, getting married, and you married your best friend, but did you ever see yourself getting married?
No, I didn't. No. And it's not for the reasons people would think, because I was never, contrary to popular belief, I was never much of a player. I was always a good dude. I'd have a girlfriend for about a year, 2 years, be loyal, be single, or be with her, and then things wouldn't work out or whatever, and I would, and it was like that. So, you look at, how many girlfriends I had growing up, and I never really thought too much about it and about getting married, and it's like this. Like I'm a guy that goes on signs. I'm a very spiritual man, and I don't just look for signs like anything like that. It's got to truly be miraculous. And I had met this young lady downtown Nashville at a venue that I was running, and her name's Ashley. And I met her. I stepped off the stage, walked up to the bar. I think I ordered a drink, and I looked over. I stepped between these two girls. I looked to the right, pretty little girl over here, and I looked to the left, pretty little. I was like, "Oh!" I was like, "Hey, what's up? How are you?" We got to talking, and gave me her number and everything. Said she was a music major, and in the music business and stuff. I was like, "All right, well, that's awesome." So something told me to call her the next day, and I called her, and I had just gotten back from L.A. and relationships were the last thing on my mind. I was just focused on my son and my work and getting everything, on that level, and completely had let go of dating and all that, and I was talking to her, and I was living in this little not really rinky, I was living in this little room that I rented from a friend of mine, where he rented rooms on the top of his house, but it was just me and a computer and a bed in a room, if you could picture that,
I
just a landing pad when I got back from LA, and I was like, well, maybe we should get together and I'm gonna catch lunch, something like that. And I heard this little voice in my head said, invite her over. And I was like, let's start there. Let's go get a bite to eat from there. And I was like, no, I'm not bringing her over here. I don't want her to see where I live or what I'm. And I know, invite her. I was like, all right, well. And I was like, hey, would you like to come over and you know, listen to some music, and then we'll go get a bite to eat? And she's like, yeah. I was like, what's your address? So I gave her my address, and she said, hold on, do you live with so and so? I was like, what? She's like, yeah. She's like, I moved out of that place a month ago.
That's crazy.
If that's not God. At that point, I dropped to my knees. I threw my hands up, and I said, Lord, I'm going to do everything I can to odds of that, man. Odds. I never told her. We didn't meet through friends, nothing. Just randomly met. And she moved out of where I had just moved in a month ago.
Wow.
So that's what I mean when I for signs. Like that kind of sign, when something that unimaginable happens in your life, you have to pay attention to it, because that's God talking to you. And sure enough, you know, it's been, you know, right over 4 years now. We got married on the 4th of July, which turned out to be the hottest day in human history recorded by temperature-wise. If you look at that 4th of July last year. Actually, absolutely. It was the 3rd and the 4th were the hottest days in human history on July, 4th of July, 2023. And but we got married on that day, and on our land. You know, we got 15 acres and just south of Nashville, Franklin. And yeah, it's been absolutely beautiful. You know, she's my best friend, like you said, and you know, she just got her master's degree, actually. You know, if there's anybody that inspires me to be a better human being, and that's the piece of advice I give to anybody that is ever getting married, like, you know, don't do it until you know it's right and that person inspires you more than you could ever imagine being inspired, because that's when you know it's going to last.
100%. Timothy Chance, I want to play another song. I want to play Highway 59 that is not out yet, and you are giving us permission to play it. It's called Highway 59. It's on your new album called Letters to Knox. So I'm going to go ahead and play it, and then we'll talk about it. Is that cool?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, hey, everybody.
Letters to Knox.
This is Highway 59 by Timothy Chance from the album Letters to Knox.
I'm on Highway 59 down to Houston, with nothing but your memory on my mind. The way you smile, it lights the room, the little funny things you do right. Feels like forever since I saw you. The circumstances seem to be unkind. God don't give no second chance. I guess I'll have to dance the dance. No, I just don't understand how this could be his plan. Now this old highway is gonna cry me a lullaby, and I'll see you when I get through to the other side. But I can't hardly stand. Now am I even there? Lord, I'm going down, still southbound on Highway 59. If it wasn't for these truck stops, I'd be lonely. I find a little hope in the neon signs, but in my life that seems the trend. They're here and then they're gone again. I'd give all of Texas just to hold you. Problem is I trust and let her decide. And tears keep falling down like rain, and damn it, I can't fight the pain. And I still don't understand how this could be his plan. Now this old highway is gonna cry me a lullaby.
Well, that was Timothy Chance, Highway 59. You know, I am still moving and grooving to that song. What is that song about, Timothy?
That's a bluegrass Texas joint that was written on Highway 59 when I was traveling down through Texas from Nashville, and I was actually in the car with a girlfriend at the time, and she was asleep in the passenger side, and you know, when the emotions just hit you when you're on the road, and sometimes, you know, it just brings you to where, you know, you kind of got to pull over because your eyes get watery. Well, I didn't pull over because I had a destination. I had to keep going, but I just felt this pain, and I know that's a sign for me too. Whenever I feel that kind of pain, I have to just hit record on something and get those emotions down, and that song ended up writing itself in about, I'm on Highway 59 down to Houston, with nothing but your memory on my mind. That song wrote itself in about 10 minutes, never touched a piece of paper, and I got with my buddy Steve-O Hickerson when I was out in L.A. I had my studio set up, and shouts out Steve-O. He's a brother of Big Vinny from Trailer Choir, who ended up going on Biggest Loser, lost like 160 pounds on the show. I lost like 100-something pounds on the show, came back. Now he's a professional bodybuilder. Look him up, Big Vinny, Trailer Choir. Love that man. But it's his brother, brilliant guitar player. Him and I sat down and laid that down, and he, you know, I really got to give a shout-out to his musicianship, because if it wasn't for that guitar part, you know, that song wouldn't be what it is. There's so much emotion in that guitar, and sometimes musicians don't necessarily, you know, participate in writing the lyrics or singing things, but when you really get the right ones, they can really speak through their fingers and speak through their soul through the instruments, and that's probably my favorite thing about that song is the guitar.
Bob Marley once said, "One good thing about music, when it hits you, you feel no pain." And that song, You Feel No Pain, and I literally felt like I was riding shotgun with you in that song. I mean, it was just absolutely amazing. But I have to give props to your backup vocals on that song as well, because they really, really hit a home run on that one. Timothy, one last question before I let you go. There are people out there that want to make it in the business, and you've said it a couple times during this show that, you know, you just have to show up, and you have to keep showing up, and you have to keep showing up, and you have to keep working at your craft. But people want to just go from one place right to the top. They don't want to do the actual work. They just want to show up and get right on stage. What advice could you give the men and women listening right now? What advice could you give them? And then I want you to give advice to the men and women that don't believe in themselves. They don't think they're pretty enough. They think that they're overweight. They think that they have the wrong hair color. You know what I mean? They're negative about themselves. What advice could you give these men and women? Dude, you've been doing this a long time. I'm sure that you've heard the negativity yourself. How did you overcome it? And what can you tell these men and women?
Oh, have fun. Have fun. Step into everything, even if you have to. Even if you have to remind yourself and force it. Put a smile on your face. That smile changes everything. You know, when you see someone, just smile at them. You know, let them know that you're there for the right reasons. You know, but I would just say keep going. You know, if someone would have told me this years ago that, hey, this is it's a 7-year business. You know, go ahead and write down your goals, write down where you want to be in 7 years, and then work it backwards. You know, write it backwards, like step by step from 7 years. Say you want, you know, 1 million records sold. You know, you start it at that, and then you work it backwards as far as this step, you know, how do I get to 500,000? How do I get to 250,000? How do I get to 10,000? And you write it backwards on paper. Once you write it down and you can actually see it, you know, and then go into it with a joyful heart. You know, sometimes people say fake it till you make it, right? Well, you fake it till you make it, to me, has more about I could be going through the worst situation ever. You know, I could have, you know, you would never know my pain. This is one of the hardest things about a strong person, is that people see you and they hear you and they know that they feel like, oh, well, this person's got a good life, this person's got it going on. Guys, girls, I can tell you right now, I'm going through more than people could ever imagine. But you hear this interview, and Johnny, like, and no one would ever tell. You know, it's that right there. You have to approach things with a joyful heart, and you have to always keep that iron face. And people talk about fake it till you make it. That has everything to do with the joy that you bring to the room, because success, you don't walk in somewhere with a negative attitude and walk out with a win. You walk in with a positive attitude, everybody walks out with the win.
I love it. Everybody, Timothy Chance, make sure you check out all of his music at timothychance.com. Buddy, I can't thank you enough for hanging out with us here on the Outstanding Life podcast, you know, sharing your stories, sharing your music for the first time. And man, I know that these songs are going to touch people's lives, and I can't wait for you to get those messages back saying, hey, I heard your music and I think it's amazing. I just want to say you're amazing. Thank you so much. Tell your wife, thank you for letting you hang out with me for an hour here on the Outstanding Life podcast. I hope that you had just as much fun as I did listening to the stories from Timothy Chance. Make sure you check out his music at timothychance.com. Hey, I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. Are you planning a conference, convention, meeting, assembly, or any live event that needs a guest speaker? I would love to be a part of it. For more information, visit motivationalcowboy.com. And don't forget to check out my Outstanding Life podcast every Sunday here on Dirt Road Radio, KYDT 103.1 FM and KBFS 1450 AM. Have an outstanding day.
Thanks for listening to the Outstanding Life podcast. Follow Johnny D on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Motivational Cowboy. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, advertise, or would like to make a donation, please visit motivationalcowboy.com. And remember to have an outstanding day.